Welcome back to Everyday Lessons in the Bible. Today I'm going to talk about Psalms 76 and 77. So in this one, it's again the awe of God. I mean, I don't know how you can ever get past the awe of God because He is truly amazing. But it talks in here about His name is known. And isn't that true? Like, His name is known throughout the whole world. Whether people believe in Him or not, His name is still known throughout the world. And so He will defeat the enemy. The Bible gives you the beginning to the end. And He ultimately defeats the enemy. But even the enemies that are coming after you, or the enemy of your soul, He is always at work. And it says that He is glorious and that nothing compares to Him, which is so true. There is nothing that compares to God at all. And then it talks about how He paralyzes the people the enemy. For example, when the enemy sees God, like they come into His presence, they will be paralyzed. Like, that moment where you're like, oh my gosh, like, I don't even know what to do at this moment. Like, gripped with either fear and trembling or magnificent, like whatever the feeling is. We've been there before where we're like, you just feel paralyzed with either joy or fear, trembling, whatever that kind of feeling is. And it says that God is going to judge the earth. And it says in here, which is kind of neat, it says the earth will hold its breath. And haven't you had that feeling before where you're waiting for something? I don't know if you've ever been in a courtroom and you're waiting for the judge's verdict, or you're waiting for him to speak. You're waiting to see how it's going to turn out. And so you just almost hold your breath. And it can be good or it can be bad. You just don't know. But you can know if your heart is toward the Lord, like we've said before, if your heart is pure towards God, and you are right with the Lord, then there is no fear of punishment or judgment or whatever. And so we praise His name. And then it even says in here, praise those who survive the wrath of men. And I think that can mean a bunch of different things. And that's what's so cool about the scriptures, is it could be talking about those who survive the wrath of men, in the sense of, what people persecute you. It could mean those that survive Satan's wrath. So there's different contexts in which some of these different scriptures can mean. And so then it talks about, when you are struggling, it's okay to complain to God. It's okay to cry out to God. It says shout for help. And there was a part in there where it talked about stretching your hands to heaven and worship. And I got this picture of like a little kid stretching their arms up to their father, wanting help, crying out to Him, wanting to be comforted by Him when you're overwhelmed and despair. And I just had that kind of picture of us reaching our hands up to the heavens and wanting God to just pick us up and hold us. And, and it says in here too, when you just can't sleep, you just can't even go to sleep. You're in so much pain and agony or sadness and despair, you can't sleep, and you need His comfort, and you're crying out to Him, and you're even having trouble praying. So this is when you just pour out your heart. Praying doesn't have to be this formal thing. Praying is talking to God and expressing your heart and being truthful with God, because He already knows. So just be truthful with Him, because He knows what you're going to say, but He needs you to say it. And He wants you to draw from your remembrance of the things that He's done for you in the past. and then worship him and let it fill your heart. Because when you can draw from the past, it will begin to fill your heart, and it'll start to restore you. And sometimes we can feel like God is angry with us when we're going through trials and we're going through really hard times. But his word is our sanctuary. His word is where we can go to be in the sanctuary of God, where his presence falls all over you. And he can reveal his word and his works to you. And so it's so important to be in his word, because that is your sanctuary, and we are the temple of God, and he dwells in here. So you have to get into the word and just let his presence be with you in it. And you're going to start seeing God work through you and through the word, and he redeems us. And I just think that's such a beautiful thing, to be redeemed by God. And if you think about it, so in these scriptures, these are people from a long time ago, and they are talking about things that they remember, and they are drawing from the past. And so in here, it's talking about when, they left Egypt to get to the promised land, and they had to go through so much. And they're remembering that God, like the earth trembles, and that the earth shakes, and that the clouds pour out the rain. And it talks about the thunder and the lightning and the whirlwind that you can see God in. And then it talks about how the sea is parted, and that there are no footprints seen. And it says that it could be foreshadowing, Jesus walking on water. But I'm thinking of, when the sea parted and they walked through the dry land, to say no footprints were seen makes me think, about the point is that it was dry and they were able to go through the parted sea. That's how, think about that. God parted the sea, and then it was so dry that they had no problems crossing it, to the point where no footprints were seen. So there's different ways to look at things. But I just think each time we read it, we see the beauty in it. And so you can see different things in it. So, it definitely could be, Jesus walking on water. I think about the thing that you'll see, the footprints in the sand, how, there was 2 sets of footprints, and then there was only one because Jesus was carrying you. I always think that one's beautiful. But so my point is to remember like they remember. They were remembering from the devastation they were in, and the promised land that God brought them to, and the victory to get there. And it took a really long time, 40 years. So don't let it take you that long, because we tend to wander in the wilderness over and over and over again because we're not learning from our mistakes, or we're not trying to learn the lessons that God's trying to teach us. But remember where God has brought you from and where you are now, and know that he's going to continue working in and through your life, and to get you to the next thing, or get you further than where you are currently. And so don't worry about where you are, because he's going to take you out of that. And so just remember that he will do it again. And I think that's what's really important, is that God will do it again. If he did it before, he'll do it again. And he did it for them in the Bible over and over and over and over again. And they were rebellious, and they would turn away from God, and then they would come back. And so it's, don't give up. You just keep persevering, you keep trying, because God will do it again.